In August 1945, an engineer from Nagasaki was wrapping up a business trip in Hiroshima. He was ready to go home. And then the sky turned white. What happened next is one of the most statistically impossible survival stories in human history. I was blessed by a wonderful couple that, out of the kindness of their hearts, they decided to sponsor me. And they pay for my travels, they pay for school, for my tuition, they even pay for my rent, my school supplies, everything that I
Wow.
needed, everything and more. So they gave me even an allowance to take care of myself. And there is no way I could repay them. I was financially covered. And to be honest, more than many citizens that go to school in America. So I understand. I appreciate how big it was for them to do what they did. I remember when I arrived in Boston for college, there was a overwhelming sense of being out of place. It was so shocking because of the sudden change of culture, and it felt like being thrown into a jungle to fend for myself. It took me a long time to get acclimated to the weather. It was freezing all the time, and I felt like I never had the right clothes for the day. But thankfully, after 4 or 5 months, I started to find a bright side to everything. I started making friends. The weather wasn't so bad anymore. And I was no longer crying because I missed my family. The sudden change was so rapid that it took a while to love it. But when I was finally making friends and looking to the greatness of this country, unexpectedly, the financial support that I had was no longer available due to situations outside of my control.
Hmm.
When I found out about the news regarding my sponsorship, I was in class and I stepped out for a moment to take the call and I started listening. As I was listening, I thought that I was in a very bad dream, that I needed to wake up. There was no way. I took a plane, I left my family, I left my friends, all that I know, and went through this whole cultural change. And I'm finally, okay, to the uppity up. And when I'm finally getting acclimated to everything, it's all taken away. This must be a nightmare. That's what I thought. I was holding my tears right then and there, but I couldn't concentrate in class anymore. So I just went back into the classroom, picked up my stuff, and just left without saying anything. And in a way, I had no one to call to actually show up. I was in that apartment by myself in my bedroom.
Yeah, I get
And I
you.
just wanted to disappear. I wanted to go home and pretend that none of this ever happened. In hindsight, and compared to so many other ways that you can suffer in life, this is nothing. For example, we have you that went through a very difficult situation. Would you care?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we all drown in our own cup of water.
Hmm.
We could say. So for me, it was more the sense of not feeling safe. When I used to work at a laundromat, you talk to a lot of people, a lot of customers. They ask you for change, information. That's it. So there was a time when I noticed that a man, like a man that could be my grandpa, like till he was old, and I noticed that he would come to the laundromat during my shifts.
Hmm.
First, he was doing his laundry, then he will go home and go back. So when it was my turn to switch my shift with this other coworker, she comes to me. She was like, "There's some man that's been looking for you," and I was like, "Looking for me?" And I was like, "Who?" And she was like, like I don't know, like an older man, like an elderly man. And I was like, "What?" He was like, "Yeah." He was like, "But he was a little bit weird because he's been asking, what's your name? What's your phone number? Where do you live?" So, like, when she started telling me this, I started to get worried. And I'm like, why is he asking for me, right? So I go into my shift and I see him come in. No clothes to wash, nothing, just standing there by the door. And now I'm starting to get, that sense of like uneasiness. Like, what the hell is going on? Like why is he here, right? And he comes to me with a magazine asking me what do I want from it. And I'm just looking at him like, what? He showed me the magazine. I was like, no, can you please leave me alone? And it turns out that he had done this before to other women.
Oh no.
So this one time I come into my shift and one of the ladies tells me, it's like, oh, someone left this for you. And it was a little note. And I was like, okay. And from the letter, I could tell this guy wasn't right from the head because he was talking about how he had a nice time talking to my parents, looking forward to the wedding. And I'm like,
Wow.
what the heck? So then that day, I get out of my shift and go to the police. And I was like, look, he left this for me. I don't know what he's talking about. He had never met my parents. I'm scared. Like, I don't know what's going on. And then they tell him to leave me alone. So he stopped going to the laundromat, but then he starts calling to the laundromat, asking to talk to me. I guess when he thought that I was there. So like this situation, it went on for a year. And that year was like hell because going to college, because I had to walk from college to work. And I couldn't even do that. And even though the walk was really short, so I had to take a taxi because I don't know if he was stalking me, picking me, if he was gonna pick me up or he saw me walking or anything like that.
Mm.
I wouldn't wish any of that on anyone. Like that uneasiness, like even you go home
For a
and
whole
seeing
year.
out the window to see if someone is looking for you, or going to the store, or walking to the park and seeing like a car that it looks like a or a person that is walking like a, and you just like it's like I did not know scare until I met this guy. This was one of the experiences that I have felt scared, but like the type of scare that I could never forget, that I don't wish on anybody at all. Trust me, I hope none of you go through that.
All of us have been scarred in life. It might be something that happened to you when you were young, something you did not choose or could not control, maybe a loss, a failure, a season that broke something in you that never fully healed the same way. Maybe it is something more recent, a relationship that fell apart, a dream you have to let go of, a version of your life you planned for that never showed up. And here is what most of us do. We either let us define us, we build our whole life identity around what happened, around what was done to us, around what we lost, or we pretend it isn't there. But history gives us one of the most extraordinary examples, a Japanese engineer who, in the summer of 1945, found himself in the wrong place twice and who has spent the next 65 years carrying what happened. His name is Tsutomu Yamaguchi, and on the morning of August 6, 1945, he is thinking about going home. He is 29 years old. He is an engineer at Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, the kind of man who spent his days working out how things are built and how they hold together. For the past 3 months, he has been stationed in Hiroshima on a business assignment, helping to design a new oil tanker. It is precise, demanding work, and it is finally done. Today is the last day of his trip. Tonight, he gets on a train, and tomorrow, he's back in Nagasaki, back home, back to his wife, Hisako, back to their infant son. He has been counting the days. He leaves early, walking toward the docks with his two colleagues. The morning is clear and warm, the kind of summer morning that makes the city look like it has nothing to worry about. But he realizes he has forgotten his hanko, his personal travel stamp, the Japanese equivalent of a signature. Back in the office, a small thing, the kind of thing that would barely register on any other day. He doubles back to get it. The detour changes everything. It puts him at 8:15 in the morning in a particular spot near Mitsubishi docks, about 2 miles from the center of the city. He looks up. He sees a B-29 bomber moving slowly across the blue sky above Hiroshima. He sees two small objects fall from the plane on the parachute, instruments meant to measure what comes next. And then, a fraction of a second later, the sky turns white. What Tsutomu Yamaguchi sees in that moment is a flash of light so intense it looks, he would later say, like a magnesium flare. The kind used in naval exercises, the kind that burns so bright you cannot look at it directly. His training takes over. He drops to the ground. He rolls into an irrigation ditch beside the road. He locks his fingers over his eyes and jams his thumbs into his ears. The shockwave picks him off the ground and throws him like he weighs nothing. A roar tears through the air. It sounds so enormous it is beyond sound. It ruptures both his eardrums. The heat scorches the left side of his face, his arms, his hands. The world goes dark. When he's fully conscious, he's face down in the mud of the irrigation ditch. He cannot hear anything. His skin is burned. The sky above him, which was blue a moment ago, is now filled with a column of smoke that rises so high, so wide, it looks like a second sky replacing the first. He does not know what just happened. No one in Hiroshima does. They have never seen anything like this. The word for it does not exist yet, but he pulled himself out of the ditch. Around him, the city is gone. The way a bombed city burns, gone, flattened, as far as he can see in every direction. Rubble, fire, and silence, broken only by the sound of people who are hurt. He finds his two colleagues. They have survived. The three of them spend the night in an air raid shelter, bandaging their wounds as best as they can, trying to understand what happened to the city around them. The next morning, Tsutomu Yamaguchi makes his way through what is left of Hiroshima. Bridges are down. He walks through the river. The river is full of bodies, men, women, children, floating face down. He keeps moving. He reaches the train station. The train is still running. He gets on. He is going home. Tsutomu Yamaguchi arrives in Nagasaki on the morning of August 8th. He goes directly to the hospital. The doctor who treats him is his former classmate, a man who has known him for years. He does not recognize him at first. The burns of Yamaguchi's face and hands are that severe. Then he goes home. Hisako, his wife, sees him in the doorway. She does not recognize him either, not immediately. The man standing in front of her is wrapped in bandages, burned, deaf in one ear, barely able to move without pain. But he's alive. He is home. For the next day, Yamaguchi rests. He treats his wounds. He holds his son. He tries to explain to Hisako what happened. The flash, the shockwave, the city that disappeared in a single morning. She cannot fully imagine it. No one who was not there can. On August 9th, Yamaguchi goes back to work. He is bandaged from head to arms. He can barely hear. He's running a fever, and he goes back to work. Because that is what you did. Because the war is still on. Because Mitsubishi still needs its engineers. Nagasaki knows something happened in Hiroshima 3 days ago. But in 1945, the Japanese military government controls the media, every newspaper, every radio broadcast. And they're not about to tell their own people that a single American weapon just erased one of their cities. That kind of truth kills morale. So they say almost nothing. A big announcement about a new type of bomb. No scale, no death toll, no real picture of what actually happened. Most people in Nagasaki cannot make sense of what little they have heard because what they heard sounds impossible. Yamaguchi sits down with his supervisor to report the Hiroshima assignment, and then he has to explain why he's wrapped in bandages. So he tells the man what happened, the flash, the shockwave, a city gone in a single morning. His supervisor listens, and then he tells Yamaguchi he is crazy, that a single bomb cannot destroy an entire city, that this is impossible, that he must be confused, or worse, that his injuries have affected his mind. At that exact moment, 11:02 in the morning, the window behind them turns white. Yamaguchi later says, the same white light filled the room. I thought the mushroom cloud had followed me from Hiroshima. The American bomber boxcar has just dropped a second atomic bomb over Nagasaki. The weapon, called the Fat Man, is even more powerful than the first. It detonates 1.9 miles from the Mitsubishi building where Yamaguchi is sitting. 1.9 miles, the same distance as Hiroshima, twice. The shockwave blows out every window. The building shakes. Yamaguchi hits the floor. His bandages are torn loose. His burns, which have barely begun to heal, are exposed again. His first thought is not for himself, it is for his family. He crawls out of the building and starts running, or trying to run, toward home. The city around him looks like Hiroshima looked like 3 days ago. Fires, rubbles, people wandering in shock, their skin hanging from their arms. He has seen this before. He knows exactly what it means. He reaches the house. Part of the wall is down. His heart drops. And then he hears them. Hisako and the baby, alive, hurt by falling debris, showered in what will later be called black rain, a toxic radioactive downpour that follows the blast, but alive. Tsutomu Yamaguchi has now survived two atomic bombs in 3 days in two different cities. He is 29 years old, born across half his body, deaf in one ear, soaked in radiation he cannot see or feel. He does not know yet what radiation does to a person over time. Nobody does. He only knows that his family is alive and that somehow, impossibly, so is he. Japan surrenders on August 15, 1945, 6 days after the Nagasaki bomb. The war is over. And now comes the part of the story that no one tells, because the bombs are the headline. August 6th and August 9th. Those are the dates that go into the history books. But what happens on August 10th and the 11th and for the next 10 years? Tsutomu Yamaguchi goes home and tries to rebuild a life. It is not easy. It's not even close to easy. The radiation damage from two blasts work on his body is slowly and invisibly. He goes bald, his skin never quite heals the way it should. For years, he is wrapped in bandages. His daughter Toshiko will later say that she did not know what her father's arm looked like without the bandages until she was 12 years old. His wife Hisako, who was soaked in black rain on August 9th, developed health problems that follow her for the rest of her life. His son, born before the bombs, will die of cancer at the age of 58. His daughters, born after the bombings, struggle with chronic illness their whole lives. The radiation reaches forward in time, touching people who were not even alive when the bombs fell. And yet, Yamaguchi gets up every day. He goes to work, first as a translator for the American forces now occupying Japan, the same country that dropped both bombs. He shows up, he does the job. Then as a school teacher, then back to Mitsubishi, designing tankers, doing the same precise demanding work he has always done. He and Hisako have two more children. They build a home. They raise a family. They live an ordinary life in a city that had to rebuild itself from nothing, which is also what he's doing inside. He does not talk about what happened, not publicly, not for decades. He writes poetry, private poetry, about what he has seen and what he carries. But he does not become a public figure. He does not seek attention. He goes to work, he comes home. He's a husband, a father, and an engineer. The weight is always there. He does not pretend it isn't, but it does not become the only thing he is. In his 80s, something shifted in Tsutomu Yamaguchi. He has spent his whole adult life carrying two dates, August 6th and August 9th, like stones in his chest. He registered with the Japanese government as a hibakusha, an atomic bomb survivor, but only for Nagasaki. He did not push for recognition of Hiroshima. He did not feel the need. He was alive. That was enough. But as he grows older, he begins to feel a different kind of responsibility, not to his own survival, but to the people who did not survive, to the cities that were there one morning and gone the next, to the question whether any of this should ever happen again. In 2006, at the age of 90, Tsutomu Yamaguchi travels to New York City. He stands before the United Nations and he speaks. He tells them what the flash looked like, what the shockwave felt like, what a city looked like when a single weapon erases it. He tells them what it costs, not just in the moment of the blast, but in the decades that follow, in the bodies of children who were never born yet. He says, the reason I hate the atomic bomb is because of what it does to the dignity of human beings. Not to the buildings, not to the infrastructure, to the dignity of human beings. In 2009, just months before his death, the Japanese government officially recognizes Tsutomu Yamaguchi as a Niyu Hibashuka, a twice bombed person, the only human being in history to receive that designation. He is 93 years old. He is dying of stomach cancer. When he hears the news, he says, my double radiation exposure is now an official government record. He can tell the younger generation the horrifying history of the atomic bombings even after I die. He's not asking for sympathy. He's not performing his own tragedy. He's simply doing what he has always done, being precise, practical, useful, doing his job. The job in this case is memory. The job is witness. Tsutomu Yamaguchi dies on January 4th, 2010. He is 93 years old. He outlives both bombs by 65 years. Here is what the history books record about August 6th and August 9th, 1945. The atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima killed an estimate of 80,000 people instantly. Tens of thousands more died in the weeks and months that followed from burns and radiation. The bomb dropped on Nagasaki killed at least 40,000 people immediately. The combined death toll from both bombings eventually climbed past 200,000. Two cities, two mornings, a scale of destruction that had never existed before human history. Those are the numbers, and numbers that size are almost impossible to hold. What Tsutomu Yamaguchi's story gives us is not a number, it's a face. It's a man who was in the wrong place twice, who survived the unsurvivable twice, who came home twice to a family that almost did not recognize him, and who would spend the next 65 years doing what ordinary people do, going to work, loving his wife. But he also made dinner. He also showed up to work on a Monday morning. He also held his grandchildren. He once said, near the end of his life, having experienced atomic bombings twice and survived, it is my destiny to talk about it. That is the story of Tsutomu Yamaguchi, a man who held the worst thing that ever happened to him and still built something worth living for. Sweetie, what was the most interesting part of the story for you?
For me, it was how long he lived. Cause look, two bombs containing God knows what that could do to your body. His son died before he did, and his son only got one bomb. He got two.
Okay, but when he went back to work the next day with bandages, he can barely hear anything, running a fever, what went through your mind?
It kind of made me think of you. Remember how you like get a wound on your foot
I
and
don't
you
think that's a good.
no.
Yes, yes. I don't think that's a good example. That was a man, Saida.
No, 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 no. I'm not saying because you were strong. You were. But that wound on your foot kept you out for like almost a month from work.
Yeah,
And I'm here thinking like this dude got bombed one time with serious burns on his body and then he went back to work 3 days, 4 days later. It's crazy to me. But you know something? I was looking up information on this story because I was like, why did he go back so soon? And I found that in their culture, at least back then, Japanese culture, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm learning, but they have this sense of responsibility that not that if you're sick, you're gonna go and go to work because you need to be responsible. No, but during wartime, they were expected to act normal, to keep functioning like nothing was going on. And I feel for him, it was kind of that sense of responsibility. So I think it will be a little bit of both. He went because he felt responsible to go to work, and two, he went to show what had happened. No?
yeah. I agree. I agree with you. But there's also this Japanese culture, as far as I can tell, is very proud, very resilient. The people are very stoic. They're not showing too much of what's going on their face. And if they need to go back to work, they're gonna go back to work, which is awesome. That's a great aspect for us to imitate as societies from Japan. Okay, his daughters were born after the bombs, right? And never even been there. And they still got sick their whole lives. Do you see how terrible this was for Japan?
It's incredible for me how the actions of others can follow generations.
Hmm.
And for him, you know how in a part of the story when they dropped the second bomb, all he did is want to go home to see how his family was doing. It's so incredible to me how he went home, looked for his family, and his family was alive. But I think ultimately the bomb did he did kill his family. Not at the moment, but years later, because his son died before he did. And then his wife died before he did. So
Hmm.
he had to see his family being taken away from him years later.
Do you think he was right or wrong? You have two cities. You have over 200,000 people dead. Was that justified, would you say?
I don't think it's anything like that could be justified.
Hmm.
Because look, I get it. It's a war. A war people do the most heinous act that they can do in order to gain the power back. Because at the end of the day, there's no good guy or bad guy. I think both of them are bad because, hear me out. You're attacking civilians. Like it's gonna sound wrong, but if your problem is the president is not giving in, attack where he is. Like, why do you have to go and attack cities where people have nothing to do with the feud? Like,
Okay.
wars are wrong. I understand why they happen, but civilians shouldn't pay for it. My point of view.
They shouldn't. I agree. But before I respond to you, because I disagree a little bit with you.
Okay.
I understand this sentiment. I get it. There is a lot of suffering. People that shouldn't die. But let's remember also the context.
Okay.
You first have Pearl Harbor, right?
Hmm.
Many people died that shouldn't have. And there is also the fact that Japan did not want to surrender. So I want to read this for you and for me, because we're all learning, right?
Okay.
By the summer of 1945, Japan had already lost the war by every military measurement that exists. No navy, no air superiority, resources nearly gone, and yet their military leadership refused to surrender.
Hmm.
They just didn't want to do it. Their code, their code is called Bushido, treated surrender as the ultimate disgrace.
Okay.
They were prepared to fight until there was no one left. The alternative to the bombs was a full invasion of the Japanese islands. The American military called it the Operation Downfall. The projected casualties on both sides were estimated between 1 and 2 million people. Japan had mobilized civilians, women, children, armed with bamboo spears and grenades. The Battle of Okinawa had already shown what it would look like. Nearly 12,000 Americans and over 100,000 Japanese soldiers and civilians, many of them by suicide, died. So they decided to kill themselves, then be captured. So the United States manufactured 500 Purple Harbor medals, which is given to the deceased, the family of the deceased, in the anticipation of that invasion. So the American government back then, Truman, they're thinking they have to outweigh. This is bad, but this is worse. If we go to the Operation Downfall, we're gonna lose even more people, 1 million to 2 million people in the combination of both sides. And what you're trying to preserve as a president is your side. You're trying to care about your citizens. And so, not only that, you also have civilians that are part of the war in Japan that they died in the war in the Battle of Okinawa. 12,000 Americans dead and 100,000 soldiers and civilians died. So when you put that in perspective, I'm not saying it is good because it wasn't good. The decision was not good. But I think it was the lesser of two evils. I know it sounds, when you look at the whole thing, you disagree?
No, in a way you're right, but like I asked you this question before.
Go
If
ahead.
the problem is between the governments, go at it with each other. Why do you have to get the citizen involved?
That wouldn't solve the issue. If you take
So then
look look at
this kind of sounds like a divorce. You know, you got the two parents to get the divorce. So one side, in order to hurt the other, use the children
okay, let me
so
ask
they
you
can
this.
hurt you, not hurt you directly. They use where it hurts the most. In America, citizens. Maybe Japan did not care about the citizens. But why not? Okay, he's not surrendered. Go after him.
Okay. See, let me give you a good example. America just killed the Ayatollah and they killed all the top leaders of Iran, of the Iran government. Did the war end right then and there? No. It's still going on as we speak. Why? Because when you kill the head, many, many multiply. And a lot of people, they already have plans
Okay.
of succession. What's going to happen if you take the head? It is productive and it feels like, oh, if this is the guy attacking me, then I'm going to attack the guy. I understand that that's the idea. But when it comes to war, the strategy is you have to defeat your enemy by any means necessary within the confinements of the law of war. However, when it comes to like who is going to die, you always have to protect your citizens first, your soldiers first. If I have to kill, personally, if I have to kill 3 people from the other side to save one of my guys, I will, because
Yeah, I understand
that's
what
the
you're saying.
preservation.
But still, like,
I know.
why is our world like this?
It is like that because people make decisions outside of your control. Meaning,
No, yeah.
this is what I mean. We cannot just put America in a vacuum where it just operates and it just have tentacles and it's evil. No, a lot of people make decisions and they put themselves in situations that they shouldn't be. If Japan didn't attack Pearl Harbor, do you think they would have gone to war? No. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah, this I see what you're saying.
So America has to defend its land, but just because it's ugly, kids died. It is morally correct for America to have done this. From my point of view,
It was wrong. Both sides were wrong.
I that's the thing. I agree with you on the first part, but it was correct because if you have to defend your land and your people and you are in the nature of war, and yes, a lot of people are going to die, including a lot of innocent, you will always have to prioritize the people that belong to you.
No,
And
yeah, I know that, but still.
I know. I okay. There are good
The
words.
Cold War was good
No,
because
no, no.
nobody died.
No, there are good words. When you have to defend the right things, there
But
are
then
good
Japanese
words.
could say the same thing. I was defending the
No, but
interests of my people.
there is objectivity. No, they weren't defending the people. Remember how the war started. It wasn't because Americans just dropped a bomb on them. Please understand that there is a context. The context is Japan started the war in a way with the United States. United States have to defend itself.
But I
I
don't agree on the morally okay answer because
it
there's
is
nothing more about it. Okay, there's a wrong answer and
mm,
the worst answer, and they choose the wrong one and
mm.
not the worst. They choose like as a I don't know, not the worst one. They choose the bad one, and that's it. You know, it happens, but it's not morally okay to kill people.
You know what? I think we can talk about this one some more in the future. But again, as the husband having the last word,
It's not morally okay.
it is yes, it is. America did the right thing. I believe they did. They did.
There's a reason why they banned atomic bombs, not because it was okay.
They're not banned.
They're not banned. Then what was
No, there is something called mutually assured destruction. A lot of countries have it, so that's why no one uses it. Because if you use it, I'm gonna use it against you. That's what's going on. In a way, the atomic bomb.
I did not know this. So like anyone could blast us at any moment and we can just die.
If Russia throws, it, if Russia throws
But we live close to New York.
if Russia throws an atomic bomb, a nuclear bomb to us, they know that we will do the same. That's why no one does it. That is
Our
mutually
lives
assured.
should not depend on these people.
That,
Our lives should not
sweetie,
depend on
it's
these
just like
people.
the thing is that this is the reality.
No, I know this is the reality, but it's crazy.
We can
Okay, but you can agree with me that they're wrong.
okay to finish this beautiful debate, and I love it. Let me just say this, sweetie. Maybe the labeling is the thing that is putting you off a little bit by not saying that it is wrong. I don't think it is actually wrong because wrong is I believe that morally they made the right decision that was handed to them. That was the decision that they were put in, not necessarily that they put themselves in. Japan made a decision to go into the war, and the United States responded. And after having to make the decision between many hundred thousands of soldiers of their own or Japanese people, they chose the American people and the American soldiers. And it was a bad decision to make, but I think it was the correct one. I'll say it again. I know you disagree, but let's just leave it at that. Let's continue. Okay. So, right after the war, he went to work for the Americans, the same country that bombed them twice. Could you do that?
No, you know me. I wouldn't do it,
Yeah.
but I understand it. Maybe,
Okay.
after the war leaves people poor. He lost
Hmm.
his house, probably his job too. So I could imagine that probably they were giving him more money. At the end of the day, you had to do what you had to do in order to support your family.
Yeah. As a man, I understand completely. A man feels a drive to provide for their family. And I would say that in the same situation, regardless of how I felt, I want to put food on the table.
Yeah.
I want to put food on the table. And I think it would be hard for me to go to work for the Americans after they did something like that to my country. And I understand why. There is also the purpose of life that you find as a man when you provide for your family. But I think after everything that we know about this story, what stays with me is the resilience, his capacity to withstand literal blasts and still live for a long time. Which brings me to what you and I can do, the example that Yamaguchi sets up for us. What can we do and what can we learn from this? I talked in the beginning about the semester that almost broke me, the phone call, running home, wanting to disappear and go back to the DR. But that's not what happened. Life went on. I made new plans. I found a different path. And that path led me to a new job where I met my wife, Saida, who had just left a job of her own because of a situation that made her feel unsafe. Two hard seasons, two people who kept marching forward. And somehow we ended up in the same building. I don't think that was an accident. Tsutomu Yamaguchi did not have a choice about August 6th or August 9th. The catastrophe. Only one generation in the world experienced. He went through it twice. The decades of his illness in his family. Also terrible. Even though he was greatly and horribly impacted, he was not defined by it. Getting up and going to work was a choice. Having two more children, he chose every single day to build a path for him and his family, for his descendants after him. Maybe you are stuck on a very traumatic event in your life, something that happened to you out of your control. Maybe it is a door that closed on you when you were finally starting to find your footing. But just like Yamaguchi's story, yours doesn't end there. It doesn't. You have a life worth living, given to you by the Creator. Allow time to heal your wounds and keep moving forward, not only for you, but for those who came after you. Your life is worth much more than the worst moments. Zoom out and see what great can come after. So there is something I keep coming back to in Tsutomu Yamaguchi's story. He was not extraordinary because he survived two atomic bombs. Survival is not an achievement, as remarkable as it is. He is extraordinary for what he did after, with the 65 years that followed. He went to work. He loved his wife. He raised his children. He showed up at the United Nations as an old man and told the truth about what nuclear weapons do to human beings. But despite all of it, he went through it. That is the kind of people we should be. People who do not let the weight of what happened become the ceiling of what is possible. People who show up, bandaged, imperfect, still healing, and going. Because the world needs what we are capable of. On August 6, 1945, a man forgot a stamp. He turned back to get it, and that small detour put him in the spot where he survived something that killed tens of thousands of people around him. 3 days later, in a different city, it happened again. He went home. He wrapped himself in bandages. He went back to work. He built a life, raised a family, loved his wife for 65 years. You have that same decision in front of you every day. The weight you carry is not the limit of what you can do. Thank you so much for watching. If this episode meant something to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it this week. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.